welcome to another tutorial. This is Kevin, also known as AKAAWOL. Well, I think this is going to be a little less tutorial and a little bit more about my attempt of making this bag into having a spiral. The previous three I kind of played with previous two didn't kind of come out the way I was hoping to. I don't know if you guys will remember 5 years ago, the first time I ever tried to make one of these kind of bases to a bag, it had this for a spiral. So I've kind of played with different methods, and I'm trying to kind of get this whole thing down to a science. But it's really been difficult. And because there's so few of these things ever made, I think that really makes it even a little bit harder to nail down. So all these parts here, I'm just going to kind of run through some of a little montage of what goes into all of this. We're back at doing the 100 strands. It's doubled up, and it's all 1/3 of a skeins length, right? So basically the same as the previous two. If you need to see how this stuff was done in any kind of a detail, the previous two videos kind of cover it a bit more. The first one, certainly. So what I wanted to do different in this was I was ending it kind of like how when you just saw these two joined together, where it was a 10 by 10 diamonds at the bottom. And what I thought this one might make it different, might get me a different spiral, was to, instead of doing a 10 by 10, do which you would have 5 of those, was to do it more of a 5 by 5, which you would get 10 of those, right? So thinking that having a smaller diamond at the base might be my solution. So we'll kind of get to that in a bit. I'm still using the random.org as opposed to throwing a dice each time, just because it's a huge time saver for me. Let's see. What else can I tell you? Oh, that funny looking thing to the right there, that's a sheep measuring tape. Its little tongue sticks out and stuff. It's just cute. I needed that. I don't forget what for, but I pulled it out, and apparently I left it on my desk while I was working. So that's funny. Yeah, back to this. So that was just joining two pieces together. Obviously, if you take those two pieces and you join it to more pieces, here's joining two more, eventually you get them all kind of put together, which, again, if you can't do doubles, then you're probably not ready for bags. But this is essentially how you make a double wide bracelet. It always adds one row, just worth mentioning again in case you haven't watched any of the previous videos. If you have, sorry. Here I'm going to join group of 3 to the group of 5. And as a result of this, you get basically the largest, flattest piece of this whole project. And if you're trying to get this project for yourself, right, so there's like 100 strands of floss right here. The length was based on bringing the row that's furthest on the left there all the way down to the bottom, basically making this one long triangle. And then from there, that was the furthest point down before I start turning the base into that curvature bit. So I guess that would be what, 10, 20, like 50 knots down. So if you're trying to figure this out, yeah, that's where that is. Let's see, what else could I tell you here? Well, there it is. That's how long it is in the whole project. Then I just wrap it around a bit of something, just so I don't have the strings in the back confusing me with the strings that are in the front. Attach it just like normal. Nothing's changed there. I know that I make this maybe sound a little overly simplified, but it is relatively simple once you get to knowing how to join bits. And again, I've covered it in those previous videos, so that's hopefully helpful. This time though, I made the little loops as markers. I made one a different color. And if you watch the previous video, you know that I felt that had kind of thrown me off, where I couldn't tell when I got back to that first point. So this time I have one red and the rest of them are orange. And I think that sort of made some sense there. It was certainly a lot more helpful. When I could tell, especially since there was 10 spaces instead of just 5. I could tell when I made it all the way around the whole project. So yeah, that was huge for me. And then here you can see I'm kind of following that same method where I go and I'm reducing the strings by coming across. The one on the left is going over the 2 there, and then the next 2. Right, and then yeah, I just kind of take which string was it I was pulling through? Oh, because yeah, I took the going over the next group. Oh, but by the way, that tool that I used to pull through, yeah, I covered that in the previous videos as well. Really super handy. It's made for pulling elastic through. Yeah, so I'm basically going over the 2, like the first 4 strings or whatever. So yeah, if you're trying to follow along, I know that this isn't easy. I don't have it down to a science. I'm really trying to, so that way I can actually kind of map this thing out, so I can say, here's a definitive way that'll make it cool. But it also appears, as far as I can tell, that the number of strings involved changes everything. So I might be able to like map this down to where 100 seems really cool, but then it might turn into a problem if you try to change it to, like, say 96 or something. Which I say that because one of the bags I'm planning on doing here soon actually has a 96, just because I couldn't work out the numbers any other way. So I'm really, I'm looking for how to do it. And you can kind of see, like, how these little groups of 5 were certainly way different from the previous ones, right? I'm also trying to work on new camera angles. So if, leave a comment if this made it any easier for you to kind of see what I was doing. Because, yeah, I'm really trying to make this easier to show. Because I want other people to try it. I mean, so far it seems like I'm the only person doing this kind of a base or whatever. I see some of you guys are making some really cool bags, and I really, kudos. I plan on trying to do a video here kind of featuring everything that you guys have shown me, that basically my videos have helped to teach you how to do. So I just don't have time for that, sorting through all of that right now. I've got a lot of things going on with the parents and just housework and stuff in general. I've been kind of slacking on all of that just so I could try to produce these bags and these videos. So, but yeah, so the thought here was, by reducing this down to 5, I was going to get that really cool spiral, right? But you can kind of see it's doing that same sort of taper inwards, right? So right here, I should have added an orange, and I didn't realize it. I kind of got a little ways in here, and where's that moment where I notice it? Kind of right in here somewhere, I think. No. I've already kind of moved past that. But yeah, I realized it too late. So there is one, I could have put in one more of the orange things. I missed it. But I figured that at that point I pretty much could gauge off of the rest of them, and successfully managed to get through the whole thing without the one on there. I was tempted in backing it up. I was just like wanting to get this thing done, and was pretty confident in my skills to be able to get through it. So from here, I'm still doing the same clipboard, kind of clamped on top of a clipboard. But when it came to getting further onto the base, I found that it was really difficult for me to see what I was doing. So I tried, I probably took about 20 minutes yesterday trying to figure out how to change this up, not just so that way the camera could see it, but that so I could better see what I was doing. And what I came up with was I took my bigger easel and turned it around backwards, so that way the slope was kind of pointing up towards my face, and clamped my clipboard onto the easel. And then I had a little trouble with the clip I was using to hold the bag in place, but it still worked well enough to actually get the job done. So it's hard for you to really see what I had done from the view that you'll have of it, but I think you can still kind of get a gist of what was going on there. So yeah, that was kind of a thing. That's right here. So yeah, so you're basically looking at it almost from my own eye level, and I think that kind of maybe helps. This might be the angle best suited for this. But yeah, so there's a clipboard clipped to an easel that's it's heavy enough that it stays on my desk well, so that's a huge benefit. When you're looking, if you're looking into getting an easel, the bigger one with the drawer to have all your little supplies and stuff, yeah, I definitely recommend that. The small ones, the cheaper, really small ones, you're going to need something to kind of weigh it down. Otherwise it's going to tip over or shift around a whole lot or whatever. It's just, honestly, just save up. This thing was about $100, and it's been worth every penny of it. I've definitely gotten more than my fair share of usage out of this thing. And as a result, the little $15 ones, yeah, they've been allocated to taking up some closet space at this point. So it is what it is. Not much I can do about that. Mind you, they were helpful back when I was doing some of the other bags. I mean, I used weights, some little cheapy 1 kg weights that, had like this rubber coating and stuff on it. And that was enough to kind of keep it on the desk. It still, you had to be kind of cautious about knocking it around. But, I mean, if you really don't have funds, there are ways of getting around it. You can, clamp it to a board or clamp it to your desk or use some weights. Be creative, just most of the stuff really comes down to, if you run into a problem, just you have enough ingenuity to figure out what you need to do and how to do it. And yeah, I mean, that's how it should be, right? I mean, that's how that's how this base turns out, is I'm looking at it and trying to figure out where I can taper it in and how to taper it in. And yeah, it's just making little judgment calls as you go along. So you can tell that those little orange strings occasionally are kind of getting in my way. I kind of tap them, move them off to the side. That's all you really have to do. But it still kind of keeps you on track as to where you are, especially when it comes to like having made one full round of doing this. So I definitely recommend that having the one color off. And this is just scrap string from a previous project. I have a big bag of it, and I just went through there and grabbed them. So everybody's always asking, like, what's the best thing usage for that scrap string? There it is, right there. Works out awesome. Yeah, they're reducing string still. You see, pulling it through, and it's this part it's a little tedious, but it goes by so quick. Because every round that you do, you're down several strings. I think in this one, I'm at least like 10 strings every time I go around. So, and there's only 100 strings to begin with. So you can see that this this portion of it goes by quickly. It's getting to there that's always seems to take forever, but this part goes by quickly, and I'm hoping that you're seeing this and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I can do that. And I know that I'm not being as much help as I'd like to be for this, because I really don't have that down to a science. You can see though, I'm reducing the strings, and then after these things have been reduced, they get tied up on the inside just to help make sure that nothing gets snagged or unravel. So that's a thing that you don't get to see in the video that I should be mindful of letting you guys know, because yeah, that's really a thing. But you can see it's tapering inwards. It's getting a nice flat base. That's basically what you want most out of these things, right? Is that it ends up looking nice and doing what it's supposed to do. And it is in fact doing it. But you can see, if you look closely, not getting that spiral. So kind of back to the drawing board on that. I think maybe it's just the way that I took it down, I guess, because I was taking the strings from the right and doubling them up, as opposed to dropping the ones off from the left. So maybe that was it. It's hard to tell. No, I accidentally looped the string I was pulling through over the one that I needed. So I actually had to pull that out. So you could actually see me do that. Yeah, so I just think it's maybe more to do with how I went through it. Oh, if you look here, I got this down to such a small hole that I couldn't use the tool to pull all my strings through the center. I was really trying to make this, see, it doesn't work. So I used that long needle with a piece of string on it, and that's how I pulled the last of them through and was able to tie that off. And then it just comes time to taking these off. Super easy, cut one side, they just slide right out. That's easy as can be. Turn inside out and knot it all up. Okay, so there we have it. Did it turn out to be the spiral I wanted? No. Oh, look at that. The camera's now having trouble focusing there. All right, so that's it. It's not exactly what I expected. I really thought that changing up the number up here was going to make all the difference in the world, but it did not. It's still gorgeous, it's still fun, and I certainly still hope that everybody's going to give it a try to make one of these. But yeah, I'm going to have to just try again. I think the whole reason why this isn't like set in stone, like how we know exactly how to do this, is there's a lot of material and a lot of time involved in making one of these. So at the end of the day, the more I make, maybe the more I can learn. I mean, obviously 30 years of making bracelets kind of taught me that I could go much further. So maybe it's going to take a couple more years before I really perfect getting these just the way I want it. But until then, it's still nice to have produced something that's going to be so fun. My wife's working on the strap for this, so it'll be done soon. Get it over into the shop. But yeah, it's a pretty little bag. I really like it. I like how the colors turned out. It's fun. It's just not quite a spiral. Oh well. So until next time, don't get your strings in a bunch.